Good evening, and welcome to tonight's presentation, From the Quarries, an archive of Masonic lore. The Philosophy of Freemasonry, first presented by William R Punt on the 8th of May, 1997. In preparing these brief comments on the philosophy of Freemasonry, I asked myself, just how does a person go about telling someone else what Masonry is and is not? I came to the conclusion that perhaps a starting point would be with a definition of Freemasonry. Actually, there were two that I ran across recently. The first said, Masonry is more than a social good fellowship, more than ritual, more than organized charity. It is a way of living, a philosophy of life. Another definition said, Freemasonry is a charitable, benevolent, educational and religious society. For the next few minutes, let's take these definitions apart and see what they really mean. First of all, many will say that Freemasonry is a secret organization. Actually, its only secrets are in its methods of recognition and of symbolic instruction. We maintain secrecy, but purely as a means of mutual identification. We take an oath, but only after assurance that it will not improperly affect any duty we owe to God, our country, our neighbour, or ourselves. We have forms and ceremonies and symbols, but these are all external. Actually, the entire ritual is a symbolic representation of the course of a man through his life, leading him step by step from birth through manhood to old age, and leaving him with the hope of immortality. The first degree, called the entered apprentice, represents man as he comes into life, helpless, ignorant, and dependent, and carries his education through the period of his youth. The second, or fellowcraft degree, represents man in his middle age, and the third, or master mason degree, takes him through old age and ends with a beautiful lesson in the unconquerable hope of immortality. Through the 3 degrees, the candidate is taught increasing wisdom in the art of upright living. Now let's look at that part of our definition dealing with religion. Although in remote antiquity, Freemason was affiliated with various religions, it has long since ceased to be a religion. It is the friend of every religious faith, but is not itself a religion. Essentially, it is the practical applications of a philosophy of life, or a way of living. Not being the product of any one race, or system of government, or economics, or philosophy, or religion, Freemasonry welcomes men of every race and creed if they have sufficient integrity of character to become good Masons, and if they believe in deity. Instead of trying to be a religion, Freemasonry deliberately seeks to provide a common meeting place where men of every religion can remain true to their own religions, and yet, submerging their differences, can work together in harmony to manifest the finest fruits of all religions. While the emphasis of religion is often for intercession for forgiveness of shortcomings, the Masonic emphasis is essentially on the more positive side of seeking to measure up to one's obligations, rather than on any theological doctrines of forgiveness. Similarly, Masonry stresses one's duties rather than his rights. Just as Freemasonry exhorts its members to be true and loyal citizens of whatever country is entitled to their allegiance, so, likewise, Freemasonry expects each of its members to be a true and loyal supporter of his chosen religion and of the church, synagogue, or other unit of organizational worship. Now let's look at the other parts of our definition. First, that of being a social organization. Freemasonry is a social organization only so far as it furnishes additional inducement that men may foregather in numbers, thereby providing more material for its primary work of education, of worship, and of charity. Through the improvement and strengthening of the character of the individual man, Freemasonry seeks to improve the community. Thus, it impresses upon its members the principles of personal righteousness and personal responsibility, enlightens them as to those things which make for human welfare, and inspires them with that feeling of charity or goodwill toward all mankind which will move them to translate principle and conviction into action. We believe that the Masonic life should be an orderly life, and that it should be a public-spirited life. Furthermore, we believe it should be an industrious life in the pursuit of one's vocation, and a physically sane life with due regard to bodily health. A sound body, orderly industry, public spirit, but primarily the building of character. To us, these emerge as the major laws of successful living. Just what, then, does Freemasonry say about man's relationship with God and with his fellow men? 1. In a world of greed and force, it teaches self-restraint and reason. 2. In a world permeated with the spirit of selfish rivalry, it teaches universal brotherhood. 3. In a world of intolerance and bigotry, it teaches tolerance and kindness. 4. In a world of cynical disbelief, it teaches reverence for deity. 5. In a world floundering in the depths of a great moral and spiritual depression, it teaches industry and self-reliance and temperance and integrity. 6. It aids and comforts and reassures and inspires individuals. 7. It leaps the barriers of race and space to draw together the finest aspirations of all men and unite them in a universal brotherhood. And finally, we can say that purity of heart, sincerity, truthfulness, fidelity to duty, and similar qualities are emphasized over and over as necessary internal qualifications. The attainment of wisdom, prudence, temperance, justice, reason, self-reliance, strength, and beauty are practical objectives. Self-restraint, upright conduct, and morality are worthy means towards the accomplishment of these objectives. These are typical of the Masonic philosophy. Yes, Masonry is more than social good fellowship, more than ritual, more than organized charity. It is a way of living, a philosophy of life.